What's going on now with the world of terrorism, as we see it, is really merely another crusade. Call it the 9th, the 10th, whatever you want. But the fact is, tracking trends is an understanding of where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. I wrote about how we got here back in 1996 when I wrote Trends 2000, and I wrote about waking up in the new millennium and Crusades 2000 was raging, and here's why. Throughout the Muslim world, devout masses, politically repressed and impoverished, were rising up against their endemically corrupt and inefficient secular governments with their pro-Western alliances. Imperialism, directly or indirectly, took the blame for the poverty, the lack of opportunity, and the social and moral decay. Disenfranchised, desperate, politically powerless, Muslims in many countries looked to charismatic clerics to change their destiny. Osama bin Laden, ISIS, anyone? Crusades 2000 is playing out in front of our eyes, but people don't want to call it what it is. They're turning it into a religious war, but it really has its basis in much more than that. I wrote in the TrendsJournal in 2006 about Crusades 2000. Swords are drawn, blood's been shed. Crusades 2000, the latest round in a 1,000-year battle between West and Middle East for holy lands, trade routes, local riches, and religiosity, is now being fiercely fought. But the media hasn't named it, and politicians insist upon calling it something else. And everyone forgets the seeds of how the Crusades was born. Iraq, anyone? Did you forget Afghanistan? Hey, how about Libya? You like Syria? This is what's going on, but people aren't looking at the trend lines. They're only looking at propaganda. Retrograde 2.0 isn't a fad, it's a long-term trend. Look at the news, it's a big deal. Farm to table. Hey, it's always been like that, wasn't it? Hey, how about organic? You mean before artificial? Look at the big deal they make now when restaurants buy these old bank buildings and make a beautiful place out of it to dine. Hey, you used to go there to bank, remember? Quality used to be the norm. And now it's a big deal. It's a big deal because so much is at such a low bottom line level that people want to move higher. Look, they're even converting old factories into luxury lofts. Old factories are built better, sounder, have more quality and design around them than the junk that they're building today. Retrograde 2.0, it's the beginning of Renaissance 2.0. N-E-S-T-L-E-S, Nestle makes the very best chocolate. No more. They were losing it. They have to move up, get rid of the artificial, and go where the market's going. And the market's going to quality. Hey, look at McDonald's losing business to Chipotle Grill. Look at Kraft. They changed their name to Mondelez to give themselves a new image. Artificial flavor, artificial coloring. Hey, even artificial intelligence? Artificial's artificial. And a huge segment of society is going toward real. It's part of Retrograde 2.0. Again, it used to be normal, now it's a big deal to get rid of the artificial and go to quality. Quality is the future. All things are connected. It's part of Retrograde 2.0, which equals Renaissance 2.0. Hey, oil's coming back. Not really. It was at $115 a barrel in June, and it rebounded to over $60 a barrel from under $50 a barrel. That's Brent, of course. So what brought it back up? Oh, the oil companies did what they said they were going to do. They cut production and cut exploration. But it's a much bigger story. That alone's not going to solve the problem. Global demand is down. It's a supply and demand issue. And there's too much product on the market as the global economies are in slowdown. Hey, remember they said we'd have escape velocity in those GDP numbers and we were going to go way back up? Hasn't happened. Go back to 2014 numbers. US GDP climbed what? 2.4%. Japan's is hardly up. Europe is flat. And so is China. In order for oil prices to go back up and sustain growth, GDP has to rise, consumption has to increase, and we don't see that in the cards. Wow, when the new year began, gold was up over $1,300. And now, of course, it's down around that $1,200 mark. What happened? In the beginning of the year, there was a lot of volatility in the markets. What leveled them out? Keep pumping in more cheap dough. Go around Europe. They have negative interest rates. Gamblers, speculators are borrowing money for almost nothing, going to the casino and gambling in the equity markets. And then look what happened at the end of January when Mario Draghi, the head of the European Central Bank, came up with his European version of quantitative easing. $1.3 trillion being dumped into the market and maybe more after that. So all of this cheap dough is fueling the equity markets. So it seems to be now that it's stabilized. It hasn't. Once the volatility returns, gold prices are going to go back up. There's going to be more geopolitical unrest. I'm into gold for my golden years. I don't speculate short term. The fundamentals of the global economy are not sound, and that's good for gold.